Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to be here today and take you guys through the data journey from raw to real. And this is a real journey that a lot of us have gone through over the last several years and is becoming more and more prominent in the commercial real estate space for a lot of owner-operators, occupiers, investment managers. So what we're going to cover today is kind of a fun journey through it. And Navigators, one of our trademarks is know the way. And so we're going to take you through what that data journey actually looks like. So as he already mentioned, a little bit my background in commercial real estate. I was at CBRE, focused on investment sales and institutional sales on industrial and office. Before that was a head researcher for Jones Lang LaSalle and the logistics group, Colliers, and then SC. So I've kind of gone through the whole route, if you will, with the big three. So one of my favorite quotes, data, 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 I cannot make bricks without clay, from Sherlock Holmes. And this is something that we always go back to at Navigator about how we operate and engage our customers and engage them on their data journey. So what are they trying to get out of this? What's the importance here? What are we trying to build here? So what I'm going to start with is making sure we speak the same language, because oftentimes these terms get thrown around a lot and no one has any idea what they mean. It's basically like the army out there. Everyone's got an acronym for something in the data analytics world. So very quickly, we'll rip through these. Structured data, formatted. Unstructured data, not formatted. ERP, core utility, so i.e. your Yardies, your MRIs, and tools like that. Data warehouse, where data is copied and stored and actually transformed. Data lake, very different, where it's brought in raw and used for on-demand analytics. ETL, when you're moving data across something and transforming it in flight. In ERD, basically how it's all connected together. That's your actual data model and how things are connecting with foreign keys. And then business intelligence or user experience. That's the end of the rainbow, if you will. That's how you actually consume and understand your information. So as long as you guys understand what these mean, we're going to have a great time today. All right, so the data journey. What does the perfect journey look like? So I'm sure all of you have experienced this exact format. So connected data via API to your data warehouse, everything works perfectly. They've got SQL and Python abilities and rich API documentation for every single point solution you use. Then you can apply that business logic. The business team gives absolutely perfect recommendations for your chart of accounts, how things look, how it should be connected, which book, which finance. And then data validation and cleansing. It's perfect. No deduplications required. Everything works. And then the last thing, the UI in business, the business intelligence software works perfectly. It adapts around your data model. It adapts around what your team needs. And the reporting and KPI metrics will come out perfectly for the business. How many people have this exact experience? My man. All right, so this is the wish, all right? What does it actually look like? Probably something more like this. And this is that path that you just have to be aware of, that it's okay, it's normal, it's what we're going through right now as our industry evolves. So typically, a day in the life, this is what it looks like. You have someone from the business saying, we need to use data, let's use data. I think we need to be data-driven decision makers. All right, cool. Then you got the data and IT team going like, okay, so where is it? Do we have it somewhere that we can utilize, that we can move into experience? Okay, now we found it. How do we ETL it and where do we put it? Okay, next. Data warehouse, let's go for it. All right, we're gonna bring it in, we're gonna put it together, and we're gonna use it, and it's gonna be fast and take like 3 weeks, right? Awesome. Next, data warehouse fatigue. Did we actually need a data warehouse? Like, do we actually ask the business what they want? Probably not. So this journey continues a little bit further down the path. Status update time. The business comes back to the data and IT team about 6 to 8 months later and goes, how are we doing? Are we ready? Okay, we're not ready. All right. But let's bring in more data now. Let's bring in all that third-party market data, benchmarking data from every service possible so that we have it ready to go when we're ready to go to market. But the issue there is most of that data has no way to be connected to your core platform, your core portfolio. There's no actual relevance. You can't actually connect the submarkets, the cities, the zips, whatever it might be that you're using to benchmark and use geography. It's very fragmented. And then that data validation process, or the lack thereof, if you will, is always the fun part. That's where you're going through and saying, all right, well, we think we got it all right, but the business looks at it, and there's not the right logic there. He's using the wrong chart of accounts, the wrong book, and basically what happens is the business team does not trust the data in the data warehouse. So you're at a very weird impasse where the IT and data teams are trying to give you something, and the business team doesn't trust it. What's going to happen? No one's going to use it. And that's where the last part comes, stagnation. Basically what happens is the data and IT team's frustrated with the business is frustrated with the data and IT team, and you have this basically an impasse where either the project gets put on hold or it gets deprioritized in the organization. And ultimately what happens is that team that's worked so hard to bring this project to light never actually even gets to that UAT phase where people can actually start testing it and using it. It becomes a really prolonged journey that you don't want to have in your organization. So what are we going to talk about right now? Let's flip the script. What should it look like? And this comes from many, many years. Believe it or not, I've been in the real estate industry for almost 17 years. I don't look it, but I am. The idea is flipping everything on its head from a data-driven strategy is really being that, going back to that Sherlock Holmes quote, is being strategic, results-oriented. So if you start with the short-term and long-term goals in mind, really engage the business. What are you looking for? What are you trying to get out of this? And it's a Jiminy Cricket philosophy. Keep it simple, stupid. At the end of the day, why are we going into advanced machine learning models and predictive analytics if you can't tell me how many buildings you own? This is a very common issue, is that the basics, the necessities, your AUM, your NOI, how are we trending in occupancy and vacancy by fund or operating partner? If you can't answer these basic story messages right up front, you're missing the game. So the idea is starting with that business team results-oriented first with those key KPI portfolio metrics is going to get you out of the gate really, really fast. Secondary, identify the data that's needed, just the data that's needed. So keeping it very, very succinct and focusing on the data metrics and the tables that are required to get those answers made. Third, this is really important, identify the delivery method. Oftentimes you can overcook the cake, if you will. And that means that if you don't ask the business how they actually want to consume the data at the end of the day, you might have a very interesting conversation with the business of why you spent $5 million building this incredible application. And they're like, we just wanted a PDF. So being conscientious of the formats and the delivery mechanism that your team wants to, and your organization wants to consume that data. And it might be variable. You might have the CEO who loves an old school PDF on his desk, kind of like a 10Q or 10K. And then you've got the portfolio managers that might want a rich SaaS platform or a database or a dashboarding tool. And then the last one is be agile in this process. The data team and the business need to work side by side in parallel. Don't do it in a vacuum. As if you're working together along this journey, it's going to be a very, very succinct journey where you're hitting milestones and tasks. Essentially, you create an agile model with the business because no one wants to get to the end of the road and they've got this cool project they're really excited about and the business hasn't seen it in 6 to 8 months and then you're expecting them to sign off on it because you're not going to get that. It'll almost fail every time, UAT, UI, and UX. The actual business will go, well, this is cool, but I think I'm just going to go back to Excel. You don't want that. So this is what's cool. You can keep it simple. 80% of all commercial real estate data analytics can be done with just 3 data sets. Just 3. That's it. You can do 80% of all key metrics that evolve across your portfolio. And what are those? Portfolio and asset data. So understanding the actual portfolio, all the specs on your buildings and metrics. We have clients that we've worked with that are huge portfolio companies that the first time they saw all their buildings in one place with class, clear heights, dock doors, all the specs was in our platform. The first time, and they've been in business for 30, 40 years. So starting with knowing everything about your buildings, what fund they sit in, what JV partner you're working with on them, and all the specs and DNA of that building, getting those together first is paramount. And they don't often live in your ERP, by the way. They're not often just sitting in Yardi or an MRI or JDE. They need to be brought in there. Make sure you're spending time and getting that data so it's centralized. Secondarily, portfolio leasing and your rent roll. So your DNA of your building, how things are flowing, the actual tenancy and leasing. And you can keep it pretty simple here too. The start date, the end date, the lease square footage, the option date, the base rent, the escalations, just having it in one place where you can actually leverage that and understand it. You can use that across multiple different aptitudes within commercial real estate, from your rolling expirations to where you've got vacancy issues and vacancy woes across the portfolio, to what industries are falling behind, so you can start to strategize and maybe blend and extend them and give them some relief. That was one of our biggest things we did during COVID, was actually looking at our portfolio clients, helping them understand who's coming next in that AR. And that's a really important thing because AR got rampant over the last 2 years. So now understanding how can you help these tenants, how can you help them diversify the portfolio as well. Third, portfolio financials and GL. Not just looking at it once a month or once a quarter, but having a living GL or a living P&L inside of your platform is imperative. Your FP&A team can then have that daily bread of how are we doing? How are we tracking against book? How's NOI going? If I be able to look at my different chart of accounts dynamically every single day, how would that change my day? So that I'm not spending 9 hours building an Excel model to answer one thing. What if it was something I could get every single day on the regular? It enables you to be proactive about your portfolio. And then the last one here is what we call kind of the touch on top, if you will. So the enhancers. So that would be acquisitions data, dispositions data, debt, touring activity, any of those tools and point solutions that you can bring in that enhance the experience. These will ultimately paint the objectives. So as the team has an objective of we need to be diversifying our leasing strategy, we need to be using multiple brokerage shops to be able to make sure we're getting exposure to the market. We need to understand our debt maturities. Do we have any balloon payments coming up that we're not going to be able to satisfy? Whereas our debt services, all of that kind of stuff comes into play. So with these core data values, if you will, or pillars within inside of your portfolio, you're going to be really, really operationally successful. Okay, so this is important. Don't try to build it yourself. Make sure you're cognizant. This is one of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And you see that horse is on fire. So the idea is within the industry, within prop tech and also the greater technology industries, there's lots of great tools out there. Spend some time in seeing what's out there, and also with your peers. Make sure you guys are talking with your peers, other CTOs and CIOs and CDOs. Ask what they're doing. What are they using? How are they enjoying? How are they weaponizing and using their data every single day? Because the idea here is if you can get there fast, you can get there fast. It's pretty cool. Did you know 78% of all data collected by businesses, including commercial real estate, is not used for data analytics or any decision making? It's a dead well. We need to fix that. So I'm going to give you 3 pitfalls. The first pitfall, too complex. The standard method basically looks like a buffet at Harrah's in Vegas. Okay, that's a lot of stuff going on. The correct method should look like the right. It's a curated Gordon Ramsay dish. It's all about consumption here. How does your team consume the data? How do they consume the decisions? So the idea and the goal within any solution you're doing for the data analytics journey is to make sure your team can consume data in a way that's effective. Every single day, it's repeatable, and it's something that you can walk from the CEO all the way down to portfolio management and property management, and they understand the flavors that they should be looking for. Pitfall number 2. This is our very common one right now, and we're starting to see it. I'm too busy. I don't have time. It's crazy out here. Well, this is one of my favorite cartoons from The New Yorker. It's 2 guys dragging a bucket of rocks around and another guy trying to hand them a couple wheels, and they're saying, no, we're good, we're good. So this is very reflective of our industry as we're starting to see right now, is there is technology solutions out there and data-driven decision makers that can really come in and influence your journey. So I would say embrace that. Listen, the counsel of many is wise. So trying to take this into effect here is going to be an important part of your data journey. And then number 3, this slide is intentionally called too much because there's a lot going on. So the idea here kind of goes back to our earlier slide of you've got a business maker or a business decision maker who comes in and says, hey, we need to start using machine learning for decision making right now in our portfolio. And the data and IT team's like, okay, all right, what's a good decision? What do you constitute as a good decision? Is it based on portfolio? Is it based on asset class? Is it based on size? Do we diversify of core versus core plus versus value add? A lot of times they don't understand the 10 rules of machine learning. You need about 10 times the amount of data that you currently have in your portfolio to build one machine learning model, just so you're aware. So there is a lot of data that needs to be aggregated from our industry collectively, as well as in your own portfolio, to really build a model that can even get anywhere close to predictive analytics. We're ways off. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done there. And in a conversation you might see in Slack or via text or via some other means kind of looks like this. You've got Johnny Acquisitions on the left talking to Dimitri Data on the right. And this is the conversation that you probably have all the time. Okay, we need to tell us what's a good deal or bad deal. Okay, well, what defines that? A cap rate's too high. What would be considered too high? Anytime the year 1 cap rate's larger than our average 3-year average, do we have that data someplace that we can bring into a machine learning model? We should. I think it's in our valuation spreadsheets for each deal. So it's not captured in a database somewhere or aggregated that we can bring together. I'm not sure. I think each analyst has their own spreadsheet. Okay, do you know which analysts have those spreadsheets? I don't know. Let me get back to you. This is a daily conversation. You typically have the business and the data team going back and forth because they're getting something from the outside the industry walls, that aren't understanding that commercial real estate is still fairly disparate with the data standpoints and fragmented. As the lady from UBS said, you've got 1,000 data points on 400 buildings. That ups quite a bit, and probably each of those buildings has 3, 4, 5 different point solutions managing that building. And you're not alone. Only 13% of organizations actually execute their data strategy. So we're in our infancy on this process. And there's a few CTOs and CDOs and CIOs that have done this with great effect because they were focused, they were succinct, they started results-oriented in mind. And if you know that you've got some peers in this place that have made a successful journey, make sure you engage them right now. It's a perfect time to do it. And that's it. Thanks so much for today. Appreciate it.